Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so you are talking about me being a Zen master of Calm because of the lag, and this is a problem I've been having because the equipment I use is not the best, you know. I'm using an old Mac and I'm doing best I can with what I have at the moment. So I'm working on this piece for the week. I've been doing it's a fan art piece of Warhammer 40k. I've been working on the construction and now I'm gonna set up colors and start rendering some parts. I mostly do pre-recordings because my Mac has the tendency to eat up, eat eat in terms of temperature. It goes crazy. It's gonna die on me any moment. So your name is Kabik or Kabik? Question is, do you make art as well, or you just like to see painting? Okay. I am actually experimenting today with screen resolution because that's another problem. The lagging, uh, for the most part, is due to the screen resolution. So I'm trying today a new experience, setting the screen resolution to 1080 instead of the 1920, and see on my end it doesn't lag as much. I don't know if it gives the same effect where you're watching or if it lags. In here it's working. I think it works better. I've been streaming for the whole week, struggling with that aspect, trying to find ways to get it better. And I think today I found out a good solution with this, reducing the resolution, because it's working almost as smoothly as if I was doing it without the streaming, because OBS takes a huge part of the CPU resources. But today it's working fine, which is good because otherwise, yeah, you lose your nerve sometimes. This is the grinding part, you know, that's maybe a little boring to watch, moving pixels, but part of the work process. Or is starting Photoshop. Doesn't agree with me. Come on. I talked too soon. Come on. So can you hear all right? Isn't the sound too high? The music I put in the background is only for atmosphere purpose for the painting because I don't usually listen to that kind of music, but for the Warhammer uh, topic, I think it creates an appropriate ambience. Oh, okay, sorry. So you're working. What are you working on, if you don't mind me asking? If you can talk also, if you can write, because if you're working, you're gonna be busy, don't have time to write in the chat. I'll just talk about the progress of the painting. Yeah, the music suits the time, the tune, absolutely. The the thing I was working before, I wasn't working on it. It's a pre-recording I did just to start to get ready and set up things. And it was for another project, an art challenge. And if you listen to the sound, it was totally different, you know, because the theme of the painting is the 80s. So the soundtrack to create the right ambience has to be from the 80s, dance music and such. Sometimes I think that the artist or artwork or painting, the painter, is like an actor. He needs to get in the character. So the sound in the background helps uh, getting it in the mood or in the atmosphere of the painting. I think it's important, to me at least. So I'm grading this the creature outfit or armor. I'm sorry if my English sometimes goes off the window. I speak French, Portuguese, and English, but the English has a mix of Portuguese and French in the accents. So sometimes I get the phonetic wrong in the words. Oh yeah, graphic design, content design. All right, I've worked in graphic design for quite some time. doing product catalogs for industrial companies, companies that produce or manufacture doors, gates, and other stuff. I did it for almost 10 years, but it's like you say, it's boring, but it pays the bills. Back to the painting. I'm using a reference, and I'm trying to grind the materials, the volume. It was more or less established in the sketch, the structure sketch, but now I'm trying to push it a little bit more to give it more render. Finish. But I want to keep that sort of traditional look to it. And it's not really an easy task in using digital. I tend to miss the feeling of the traditional painting because I also have done lots of traditional painting, specifically mural art for theme parks, and and I need that feeling of moving the paint that you don't get when you paint with a brush in Photoshop. So I use and show it. I use smudge and mixer brush drawing tool. That way it shows which tool I'm using when I'm painting this. When I use smudge or the mixer brush, I get that traditional feeling that I like a lot. When I use the brush, the simple brush in Photoshop, I don't get that feeling. Too artificial, doesn't give the same effect. Although, when doing digitally, to me at least, it doesn't give the same effect in terms of finishing. When I do it traditionally, I do one sketch, a washing, and then I start rendering, and I could say in 3 passes I got the painting done. But when working digitally, I don't know why, maybe because I'm not really used to the process or the use of the digital tools. I gotta do more than 3 passes to get the result I want. It takes a little bit longer. Plus the lagging of the stream. But like I said before, today it's doing great. It's not lagging that much. I'm quite happy with the result, and I think I'm gonna stick with this formula for a while, as long as it works, and it allows me to paint live, because that's what I want to do. I want to paint live. I don't want to do pre-recordings, and it's a little bit frustrating when it doesn't work the way you want it to. I think today it's gonna be more. I'm gonna make more progress on this, because I end up spending almost half of the time figuring out how to get a solution. So it's reading, researching a lot. One question: when you do your work in graphic design, what software do you use mainly for the work you do? Do you use the Adobe Panoplia, like Illustrator? I don't. Fireworks, I think that's another software that is used for the layouts, the grids and such. I think it's called Fireworks. InDesign, maybe, and maybe Photoshop as well. I use. All right. I use InDesign when I want to do my work on my portfolio, the editing and stuff. I use InDesign. Affinity. I never heard about it. Affinity. I don't know. It's new to me. Never heard. Yeah, of course, there must be alternatives to the Adobe software because it comes to a point it becomes quite expensive if you have to use more than one tool to work. It's quite a bit in financially, pay monthly. I can only imagine. I'm still using CS6. I bought it, and until now, I haven't felt the need to upgrade. That's the job until it doesn't. But talking about other software, uh, when I work vectors, I use Illustrator, but I used to work with CorelDRAW, and I still think nowadays I stopped using it from 2010 on. That's when I switched to the Adobe CS6. 2010, 2011, I don't remember the year, but I still didn't feel like Illustrator was that much better than CorelDRAW at working with lines. Or maybe I was too used to the process or the workflow done with CorelDRAW, maybe get used to it. Another software I liked a lot to work lines is Flash. Oh, sad it's not used anymore. I did so many work with Flash for websites, creating design for companies, and then it simply vanished. The whole industry went back to HTML. It wasn't safe. Flash wasn't the best technology for web design, but it was great in terms of the possibilities. Although today you can still use other forms to simulate that animation style that were used in Flash. But you get to know the language a bit different. Okay. Okay, flag is on. Oh, that's cool. Didn't know about that one either. I kind of gave up on the thing. I have it installed, but I stopped using it. But that's interesting. So they are doing with Flash. I found it strange that Adobe bought the software because it was from another company. I don't remember the name, and they bought it and they just shut it up, changed the structure of the web design making. Flash was a huge software until 2008, maybe. That's when it started to shift again to HTML. But it's cool if the new Flash does vector-based HTML animation. That's awesome. But you know, I've changed the process. So the animation I used to do with Flash, now I do with After Effects. Although that is the same situation, you get to learn new things and it takes time. And you get to go in right and the proper workflow. Although there is so many tutorials in the internet today, it's just a question of putting the time and doing the green. Not impossible. You can learn anything you want. Just a matter of applying it to it. But it's cool. After Effects got the expressions and such. Interesting. I like the camera. Can do 3D, practically animation with that piece of software. Incredible. The amount of things you can do digitally today. Painting, for example. Traditionally, when I paint, I have to use 10 or dozen of brushes, one for each tonality. Gotta clean them. takes takes more work to prep than to work on the painting per se. And digitally, look, it's endless paint. You don't get your hands dirty. Don't get your outfit dirty. Yeah. And another great advantage that I remember is that when I painted traditionally for theme parks, I had to use a air compressor. I don't know if that's the right word, with a painting gun. No, I'm self-taught. Man, I got this love for art since I am a kid, but unfortunately, my daddy didn't want to spend a dime on my interest for art. So I had to learn on my own because that's what I wanted to do, you know? And with the internet, things changed quite a bit because I had to buy books to learn and practice, of course. And today there is so much information in the internet Now it's the problem is to choose what you're going to listen to with the time you have, the spare time you have to study. But 20 years ago, there was nothing. So it was just a matter of watching books, reading books, and I was saying about the painting traditionally. Uh, I used the air compressor and the spraying gun. It was the same problem. I had to use two or three because of the different tonalities. I used the dark tones in one spray gun, light tones in another, and the middle tones in another. That was a lot faster to paint. And I remember that also I did it to use a mask, not to avoid breathing the diluents and such chemicals. Otherwise, I'd get stoned every time. And today, with the digital, there's no need for any of this. That's another huge advantage. Anyway, I'm always keen on new adventures. I've worked in so many creative fields. I've done illustration in the advertising companies as a freelancer. Yeah, paint high. I remember lots of times, lots of times. But it's not only problem with getting high. Another problem is the how should I say that? I'm trying to translate from French to English in my mind, but what I mean is the health, the breathing. Yeah, when you breathe chemicals, it's like smoking, only 10 times worse. And that's another problem. It's not only when it goes to your head. The other and worst problem is when it goes to your lungs. And I used to smoke. It wasn't really healthy. And as I was saying, um, I've always uh, have that mentality of adventure. When I see something that I really, really like, I get hooked, obsessed even, and I have to learn. That's automatic. I need to learn that. And with everything artistic, I have that need to know how it's done. You know, I have that urge to see what is behind the curtain. How is it done? If that guy is able to do it, I am able to do it too. I want to learn. I also had a musical career for 8 years in a hard rock band and another cover music band where we played blues. Oh my god. I didn't have the studies, the school, but I still enjoyed the experience. You know what I mean? I remember that time I used to wake up really, I would sleep, what, 3, 4 hours. I'd wake up really early to study, practice my guitar playing. And then I'd go to work to the advertising agency to do illustration. And I'll get back in the at home at night and I'll keep practicing my guitar until late at night. 8 years. Great experience too. One of the best I had. I think art is the most interesting. I can do anything, nothing else. I am zero, completely a failure in any other endeavor, or even the work stuff to work on at home. I'm totally incapable of doing it. It has to be artistic. If there is not any art in the process, I'm not interested. I think Photoshop is killing on me. Okay. I'm gonna have to rework that because it's too smudged. I'm gonna have to repaint some parts. I need a little bit more because it's failing. Yeah, you said it, man. I couldn't have said it better. That hunger to absorb knowledge and skills. That's the part I like the most. You know, I usually enjoying my experience, life experience. I watch other guys that I knew and watch the people complaining about the grinding. They wanted the results immediately, but they didn't want to put the time in it to the grind. And that's exactly the part I like the most. You know, the grinding. It's the most interesting part because that when you are aware of what you're doing and concentrated or immersed in what you're doing, that's when you make discoveries. You know? And you won't do that if you don't put the work in it. So the grind is the most essential part, to me at least. It may look boring, but it isn't. Because that knowledge, it's accumulating, not a waste of time, even if you're not making money with it. And I know I've done so many stuff in work just to know how it was done for the sake of knowing. It may sound a bit crazy maybe, but that's, to me it's important. The knowledge more important. Of course, you know, there is another problem with this because I know by experience that when you say to a client that you are self-taught, you're not taken. They don't take you seriously. You know, it takes time to prove to them that you are able to do the job. When they give you the opportunity, also, and that may have been the biggest struggle I've had in my life. You know, but I am perfectly aware that there are things I don't know. It's a question of time till I learn or discover them. Because when you're not aware of what you have to know, you think you're doing the right thing and you're not. And that also has happened to me. But I think I've been able to do those things for the curiosity, natural curiosity I have in me, but also because I'm not much of a sleeper. I don't sleep. I have to be need to be busy doing something. I have to learn something and be busy. If not, then I get depressed. So I need to learn, know new things, new experiences, and do new stuff. I didn't stake in any of the jobs I've done, even creatively, because after a while I tend to get bored with it. Once I learn the thematic, I have to do something different, something new. It has been my experience. I don't mean that I'm gonna be that way all my life because with age we tend to get really tired. I think that's not my situation yet. But I think about it. I am surprised even, but I still have that curiosity because I got friends uh, locally in the same, not exactly the same situation, but they end up doing something that is more comfortable and more secure in terms of income. I'm not saying I'm doing the right choice. I'm making the right choice because that adventurous spirit has brought me quite a bit of, I don't know how to put it, but it hasn't always been a good thing. But what the hell? You only live once. Might as well take the best of it. And for my part is learning. That's what I like to do. Okay, I'm gonna switch to the other character because when I get the feeling I'm zoning, it's not productive anymore. Okay, let's work the colors on that one. This one is a little bit Photoshop. Come on. And that is a little bit more complex. And I'm still in the plotting color phase. Come on. He's not cooperating with me, Photoshop. Come on. I'm trying to put it in the place. Okay? Stick to it. Yeah, I gotta clean those colors. They are all over the place, but they are not accurate. I've been ignoring the. No one showed up anyway. Okay. And the same struggle again. Photoshop. Yeah, that's another problem when streaming because when you switch to OBS or even to Chrome, uh, then I go back to Photoshop and it takes convincing to make it work again. I don't know why. That's the problem. When you do that traditionally, you use the tool, but digitally, the tool can decide it doesn't want to work. Okay. And Photoshop is like that. At least my Photoshop is like that. My version of Photoshop it takes convincing. You have to switch back and switch back again until he remembers he was painting because he forgets easily. I think it has to do with the brushes, the use of brushes, because that is a glitch in Photoshop. Because he's painting, I switch to another software, I come back to Photoshop and the brush doesn't work anymore. I have read stuff in the internet about that, but I haven't found any conclusive information. There was a plugin, if I remember correctly, that I used even, but it didn't fix anything. He's got personality. He does what he wants, when he wants. Yeah, that is where. But I am not the only one because I've read stuff in forums, Adobe forums, and apparently that's a. I'm not gonna say that's normal, but that's a recurring problem. We have to roll with the punches. If Photoshop throw you a punch, you roll with it. I shouldn't have to do that now. That's what I did yesterday. I'm going back to cleaning the form. I'm going backwards because I was supposed to do that yesterday, the cleaning the form. So I'm going to stick to the color today. Oh, that's really a good idea. The mixer brush it does an interesting effect when you try to use it as the smudge brush. It has the tendency to thicken the paint. That's interesting. Sometimes I wonder how they did it digitally to simulate the traditional effect. That's a lot of programming, trial and error to get that result. Only moving pixels to get almost the same feeling of the traditional effect or movement. Okay. Now, speaking about the Twitch experience, that's another thing I've been enjoying. Uh, I've been using Twitch for some time now. I won't say a year, but it doesn't go that far. I didn't have that much time to put in this, but I see that it's a growing community and it's interesting the fact that you can work at home uh, and making the whole experience less lonely because that's networking. It's interesting. I have used other platforms. One of those is called Watch Me Work. I've done a couple of streams also in that platform, and it's interesting because they pair uh, the the people in groups of four, and the chat there is a lot more dynamic than in Twitch. Although I am nobody, you know, you came by today by accident maybe, but usually I don't have that much traffic in my stream. That's the term. But when I am in Watch Me Work, uh, almost always there are 3-4 people. I'm talking with 3 other people on a daily basis when I used to stream daily there. But I don't know why I enjoy the Twitch experience better, and the way they are setting up their structure, it's way more interesting, I think, to me at least. The ability to use the platform to promote, to see other people work, get inspired. That's a huge thing. All right. Yeah, it's more user friendly, but you know, it's a different use of the technology, I think. Uh, in the Twitch, you can have 1 to thousands of people watching you stream. In the Watch Me Work structure, it's like if it was a room with 4 people. You are paired in groups of 4. On Twitch, or it's more like an audience thing, I think. Yeah, I agree absolutely with what you said now. Absolutely, that's the case, you know, because you are watching the struggle life. If you know enough about the making, when you watch an artist working, you will learn a lot more, you know, no doubt about that. And you can learn, and it's a good experience in terms of sometimes there are things you want to know how it's done, and by watching someone else do it, you sometimes get to the conclusion that there must be another process or another way to do that faster, maybe. And that on that topic, we get to the really agree on. Because what I'm doing, for example, at 2D, if I modeled the character in 3D, I wouldn't have all the work I'm having right now. It was just a question of rendering and then paint over it, give it a painterly feel. But I'm getting off topic now. You were talking about the leather jacket. Uh, that's the previous painting. Yeah, I struggle quite a lot with that leather jacket. Because the problem is to give it a potentially feel digitally. That's an double challenge, you know. Not that it gives the same work if I had to paint it traditionally. Question is, okay, being used to do the thing, looking at what you're painting. Another thing is to look at the screen and hope for your hand to do it correctly. Don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like juggling. You don't look at your hand, you just look at the screen and hope for the best. It takes some time to get used to that way of doing things. Okay. That part isn't me at all. So don't think I'm not working the shadows yet. It's just color cleaning. There is a nuance of shading, but it's not the end result yet. That's another thing interesting in Photoshop. You can paint additionally, but in my situation, in my case, for example, I'm painting. I'm trying to simulate the traditional experience as much as I possibly can. But I have that problem that having worked for a long time doing photo retouching, um, I got the tendency to use tricks. When I see the painting is not going where I want, or sometimes I facilitate in one or another aspect, and then I have to use retouching to correct shadows and lights and stuff, and it's not traditional painting anymore. So in the end, it's a mixture of techniques to get the end result. You use photo textures, you use blending modes, and in the end, it has to do the. And even when the pinch-only effect is not achieved correctly, you get filters in Photoshop that enhance the, the texture to give it a more pinch-only feeling. So lots of ways to cheat, no, yeah, going the wrong way. Lots of cheat, that's not the word. Cheating. and I struggle a bit with the English. So the pronunciation of the phonetics is crazy. But it's easier than Spanish. I studied Spanish for 2 years. After 2 years, then I still wasn't able to speak Spanish correctly. I knew the words, but I couldn't do the pronunciation right. And I think it's due to the French, because I was born and raised in France, and my first language was French. I only learned Portuguese later on, was a kid, although my parents are Portuguese. And they used to speak Portuguese at home, but we didn't. Then I went to Portuguese school to learn Portuguese, but I had the same problem that I am having now with the English. I came to Portugal, I couldn't use the phonetic right, so I was in French or Portuguese with a French accent. That was half. Took me quite some time to get used to the Portuguese phonetics. And with the English is the same. Sometimes the words get a double meaning because you're not putting the phonetic and the accent in the right place. That's an aspect I struggle a lot with. Plus, you got the British English and the American English, and that adds a lot to the struggle, because I am always, I have to make a decision when I'm speaking. The decision is, am I going to speak an American English or a British English? Because there's a difference. There's a difference in the phonetics, the way they use the e's, the words e and the. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Okay, so you know the struggle, right? That's also one of the main reasons that I decided to do those streams. I am really, really shy person, and to take the first step for me, it's like throwing yourself out in the water without knowing how to swim. But I had to do it, and one of the main reasons is the practicing the speaking English, and also not forgetting the French, because my stream is multi-language. It's English, French, and Portuguese. So I don't know if it's possible. I haven't put that in practice yet, but if I have in my chat people speaking French, Portuguese, and English, I'll try to answer in the three languages. That will make an opportunity to exercise speaking those languages. It's not only a stream, it's a translating stream as well. So I don't know if I can keep up though, but I can speak French, English, and Portuguese. I don't know about the translating though, because if I answer one question in English and then I have to translate to French and Portuguese, In the meantime, the stream is over. So I think I'm thinking about answering as people put their questions. I answer, and I'll answer in their language. Yeah, the sound in the background is is giving me a nostalgia because of the guitar playing. I don't play as much today. I didn't forget how to play. It's just a matter of picking up the guitar and play for 7, 10 minutes. I fall back again. You see, here I'm doing the color in a separate layer in the color blend mode. The goal here is to be able to change without compromising the painting. What I mean is use the base colors here, blue and the golden and such, but to get the lighting later in the lighting phase, I'm gonna use the blending modes in the colors to get the needed effect instead of painting it already, setting up the light and shadows, because then the painting is compromised. You know, if I put the light in the right, front right or back right, and the shadow and the occlusion in the front left, that's it. You know, the painting is done that way, and there's nothing you can change about it. But in that the way I'm doing it, if I decide to change the light, I just have to change the blending mode. Of course, there is additional work in terms of editing and retouching. It's more freedom to change the light that way. I think. The advantage of this, the way I'm doing it, is that I have to practically repeat the process in every stage of the painting. But you know, that's an experience. I, if I see it works, I'll use this technique again. And if I see that it doesn't work that well, I'm gonna try something different next time. I never do the painting exactly the same way. I'm always trying to find out other ways to do it. That's difficult to get bored when you do things differently every time. But I get standards here. I get techniques that I repeat the same because it works that way, and there's no need to try to figure another way to do it. But in terms of lighting, that's one of the things I find interesting is to have the ability to change the light, maintaining the same painting. So in that way, I have to approach the painting as if it was a 3D work. I model the form, uh, using gray tones, and then I add the flat colors. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm cleaning the flat colors, putting them in their place, and then goes the lighting, and then goes the details and final touches. So I don't know if I was right when I named it Fan Art Week. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that in 1 week, but it's worth the try. If I do it, fine. If I don't, too bad. Gonna go bad on my reputation. You say you do something in 1 week and then you take 2 weeks to do it. How worse could it be? That's not the right color. I messed up the color in that. I'm realizing that this is the arm. There is no golden color in the arm. Only blue. Oh, it is. As I've heard, that kind of painting, for example, in Riot Company, Riot Games, I think the artists have 1 month to come up with the painting, the illustration artists, that company. I've heard people talk about it. No, I'm gonna say what I heard. But they got 1 month to get an illustration done, which is quite an easy deadline. 1 month. But they don't only do that. So I can only imagine the struggle, even though. But 1 month for a painting gives the opportunity to do studies on the side, stuff like that. So able to be pretty accurate in terms of results. Plus, I can only imagine they work teams, so they must spend the day receiving and giving feedback. All those pros working together. It's practically impossible to mess up a painting because you need all the help you can get, and you are having it when you work in-house in the studio. Must be wonderful. Those guys must, I'm pretty sure they go to work and they love what they do every day. They never get bored. I know I wouldn't. And Photoshop, again, refusing to do what I'm asking. That is right. I'm not sure yet, but if I am able to finish this until the weekend next week, I think I'm gonna work on a exclusively, maybe, although that's dangerous word to me, uh, on the other painting, the 80s painting, for an art challenge, and I want to do a different experience. In that painting, the 80s painting, uh, I am making the most possible effort to keep it in the traditional ways. So no experiment with blending modes and such. It's gonna be most traditional possible experience in that digital painting. And I want to give it that loose brush style to convey that Lawson brush style. Open and I'll do alright. If it was very good idea, my idea right now, but it's pretending. I'm gonna have to do any variations of tones and face so it doesn't look that flat. Looks like plastic, made of plastic. I know something that is bothering me right now is the layer with the splatter, the splatted blood. I painted the blood in blue. I mentioned it earlier to someone in the chat. I used blue for the blood because I don't know where I read that. Somewhere an article I read that in certain cultures you don't put the blood red. You never use the red for the blood. You use an alternative color. And so I thought about it. I thought that would be a good idea to substitute the red of the blood for that color so it doesn't offend any culture. Plus it turns the theme a little bit more peachy friendly. I don't want to do too heavy kind of work, you know. I want to make it too violent. I want to let it stick to action and not go any much beyond that. Just action is good enough for this painting. He's kicking the creature's asses. He's winning. But without the violence ingredient. I like more dark humor, but for the theme I didn't want to put any of this because that's another question. That raises another question. Is how easy people get offended when you joke a little bit with their IP. When you do something with a certain degree of humor, you add to it, and sometimes people doesn't react well to that. They get easily offended. Like if you were making jokes on the behalf of their favorite thing. I have observed that, for example, in Star Wars fans, you can't joke about it. Otherwise, you're banned from the platform. It's only fiction, not real. But that brings another aspect, the human tendency to, yeah, I don't want to get into politics like that. That's one of the rules of my stream. No politics, no religion, no racism, no homophobia. There's a shadow here. Wouldn't be until the shadow again. How did you get here? Let me see. In the colors. How come this shadow is in the color layer? Let me see. Yeah, big mistake. Big mistake. This it works. Color. Let's save that. Okay. Save as well. I like that effect of the dirty textures. That's pretty much what I was intending. But sometimes when I get to the detail at the end, the cleaning, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna do this in a way that I'm gonna lose that effect. But then I tend to clean it so much, the finishing, that I'm gonna erase that texture. I'm painting the colors based on. I think I'm gonna end the stream in the other platform because I'm doing this in a multicasting, but for the computer's sake, because it's getting really hot and not the good hot kind. Okay. Just writing something. Bye bye. Now, how do I close it? Okay. How do I end the other streams without closing the global stream? I know. There you go. Up here. And here. Let me see if it works. Restart. Would be alright. And I don't want to end the stream on Twitch, so I'm doing it in the other platforms. Restart it. Let me see if it works. If it's going to say, but it's not, so it's not working. He restarted on his own. Interesting. So you want me to learn new things. Is that it? Yeah. And if it doesn't work, leave it be. Something happened. What happened? Oh, okay. See you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. Thank you for the follow as well. I appreciate it. Bye. I'm reading the chat. I didn't read that line. Didn't read. Uh, it's been great to meet you. Thank you very much. And feel free to stop by anytime, man. I'm here. Can't go anywhere anyway. So, so I guess I'm gonna talk to myself for a while. I'm gonna train in the arts of monologuing. That's the thing I'm not really comfortable with because I get the feeling I am talking to my imagination, which is a natural thing to me, but usually I do the talking in my mind. I don't verbalize it. But oh well, why not? Why not? What am I gonna talk about? I think I'm gonna restart the stream because of the other platforms because computer is not really too happy with the streaming thing in several platforms is already the red. I'm gonna restart the stream. So see you in a bit.